Every day, Canadians line up 5.3 million times for a coffee many say they barely even like, at prices creeping higher, from a chain where speed and quality both get routine complaints. Yet, Tim Hortons turns this into billions, without relying on premium coffee or luxury service. If it is not about taste or value, then how does this brand dominate the landscape and rake in profits? To answer, we follow the money behind the habit and uncover what really keeps the Tim Hortons machine running. In 2014, Tim Hortons stopped being just a Canadian icon and became a line item in a global fast food portfolio. That summer, Burger King Worldwide, controlled by 3G Capital, a Brazilian private equity powerhouse, announced it would buy Tim Hortons for about $11 billion. The deal created Restaurant Brands International, called RBI, a new holding company that would run Tim Hortons and Burger King as separate brands under one roof. The headquarters shifted to Canada, a move that drew attention for its tax advantages. For RBI's board, Tim Hortons was not just another coffee chain. It was a cash engine, built on thousands of franchise stores and a daily ritual that spanned the country. 3G Capital's reputation came from squeezing more profit out of brands through relentless cost control, zero-based budgeting, and a near-total focus on franchising. To them, Tim Hortons was a chance to collect royalties and rent from a dense network of franchisees, while leveraging the buying power and supply chain scale of a global conglomerate. RBI's approach is all about scale. With Burger King and later Popeyes in the mix, the company could negotiate better deals with suppliers, roll out new technology across brands, and centralize marketing muscle. But the real prize was the franchise model. Almost every Tim Hortons is owned and operated by a franchisee. The parent company collects a steady stream of fees and rent, while the risk and grind of daily operations stay at the store level. That is how a morning coffee habit gets turned into a billion-dollar business model. Every new Tim Hortons franchise begins with a hefty upfront payment. The initial franchise fee typically lands between $50,000 and $60,000 Canadian dollars, just for the right to use the name and system. But that is only the first line on the ledger. After opening, every franchisee sends 4 to 5% of their gross sales straight to head office each month. This royalty is not based on profit, but on every dollar that passes through the register, rain or shine. For a store generating $1.5 to $2 million in annual sales, that means $60,000 to $80,000 a year goes to Restaurant Brands International before accounting for any local expenses. The money does not stop there. In many cases, the corporate group owns the land or building and leases it back to the franchisee, adding rent on top of royalties. Lease terms vary, and rents are often set at market rates or higher, with regular escalations built in. For some locations, rent alone can reach into the 6 figures annually. The dual stream of royalties and rent means the parent company collects a steady high-margin income, whether the franchisee thrives or struggles. Beyond the visible fees, there is a third, more subtle stream. Franchisees are required to buy coffee, baked goods, packaging, and equipment from corporate-approved suppliers. These supply contracts often include rebates or marketing allowances paid back to head office, creating an invisible flow of revenue that does not appear on the store profit and loss statement. Together, these streams turn each franchise into a reliable source of cash for RBI, with the risk of fluctuating sales, rising wages, or food costs sitting squarely with the local operator. Tim Hortons' grip on Canadian routines begins with location density. With more than 3,500 restaurants spread across the country, the odds of being near a Tim Hortons are higher than for any other restaurant chain in Canada. In most cities and towns, it is common to find 2 or 3 Tim Hortons within a short walk or drive, sometimes even facing each other at the same intersection. The company's real estate team targets high-traffic corners, commuter routes, and spots that catch morning and evening flows. This is not accidental. Restaurant Brands International, Tim Hortons' parent company, has publicly stated its Canadian growth plan is focused on adding more freestanding stores with drive-thrus, especially in areas where population is rising or the brand is less saturated. The drive-thru is the engine of this strategy. While the company does not publish an exact percentage, Industry observers and executives agree that most new Tim Hortons in Canada are designed for drive-thru service first, with indoor seating as an afterthought. For many Canadians, the ritual is not about lingering over a coffee inside, but grabbing a double-double on the way to work, hockey practice, or a late shift. Drive-thru lanes wrap around suburban boxes, line up along highways, and even snake through small-town gas station lots. This format is especially dominant outside downtown cores, where car culture rules and speed is everything. Extended hours seal the deal. Many Tim Hortons are open from early morning until midnight, and highway or hospital-adjacent locations often operate around the clock. The result is a network where, no matter the hour or the weather, the nearest Tim Hortons is almost always open. This omnipresence makes the brand the default choice for millions, capturing every possible coffee run, snack break, and impulse stop. The physical footprint is not just a convenience play, it is a deliberate strategy to be everywhere Canadians are, at every time of day. A cup of Tim Hortons coffee costs the company less than 50 cents to make, yet it sells for up to $3 at the counter. That margin is no accident. Every step of the operation is engineered to keep costs low and profits high, not just for the corporate parent, but for the entire franchise system. The real engine sits behind the scenes, in a network of regional commissary centers. Instead of baking fresh on site, stores now receive frozen, par-baked goods, donuts, muffins, croissants, all produced at scale and shipped out daily. This switch, made in the early 2000s, cut labor costs and waste, even as it sparked complaints about declining quality. The numbers tell the story. Baked goods can yield gross margins of 60 to 70% before labor, thanks to centralized production and predictable portion sizes. Coffee is even more efficient. Beans are sourced through long-term contracts, roasted in bulk, and brewed by automated machines that guarantee consistency and minimize errors. The cost of beans, filters, cup, and lid averages between 30 and 50 cents per serving. When that cup sells for $2 to $3, the gross margin hovers around 85 to 90% before factoring in wages or rent. Equipment is standardized across thousands of stores. Franchisees lease machines and ovens through corporate-approved suppliers, keeping maintenance predictable and training simple. The workflow is designed for speed and repeatability. Frozen dough moves from freezer to oven to display case in minutes, with little room for improvisation. Sandwiches are assembled from pre-portioned ingredients, reducing prep time and food waste. All of these levers, commissary supply, automated brewing, and streamlined assembly, translate scale into per-item profitability. The more stores in the network, the more efficient the system becomes. For the franchisee, these efficiencies help offset rising costs elsewhere, but the biggest impact is felt at the corporate level, where every cup and donut sold feeds a high royalty stream. Those royalties are nearly pure profit at scale. The economics are clear. Tim Hortons does not need to win on quality. It wins by making every transaction as cheap and repeatable as possible. Opening a Tim Hortons franchise means putting up at least $500,000, sometimes closer to $1 million, before the first cup of coffee is poured. For one Ontario operator, that meant a mortgage on the family home and a bank loan, all in hopes that steady traffic would cover the bills. Staff earn between $15 and $17 an hour, and with minimum wage on the rise, payroll takes a bigger slice of revenue each year. Rent is paid, often to the corporate landlord, and every bag of coffee and every box of cups must come from approved suppliers, with no room for bargain hunting. After royalties, rent, wages, and utilities, what is left is a margin that can shrink to 10%, sometimes less, before the owner pays themselves. Debt payments do not wait for a busy week. The risk sits squarely on the franchisee's shoulders, while the parent company collects its cut no matter what. Every morning, millions of Canadians reach for their phones before they even reach for a coffee. The Tim's Rewards app now logs over 5 million active users each month in Canada, quietly nudging people toward that next cup. Points pile up with every purchase, and limited time offers land right on the lock screen, tempting a second visit before noon. It's not just about caffeine anymore. It's about the dopamine hit of a free donut, the instant redemption, the feeling of being recognized by the system. Tim Hortons leads the country in visit frequency, with dense locations and digital incentives making it easier than ever to slip into a daily routine. As one cultural commentator put it, Tim's isn't just a coffee shop, it's a habit engine. The average transaction may only be $5 to $8, but multiplied by millions of visits, the numbers add up fast. Every day, millions of people choose familiarity over flavor, fueling a system where routine, not quality, drives billions. As convenience tightens its grip on Canadian life, Tim Hortons' hold only deepens. The real question is not about coffee, it is about what we value when habit becomes the business model. What would make you break yours?